With the presidential election in the United States only 8 months away, and Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump edging closer to securing the nomination of their parties, what effect will the new presidency have on relations with the EU? At a recent Black Coffee Morning event at our London offices, a panel of experts discussed how the Transatlantic partnership might develop.
As Secretary of State, Secretary Clinton was very supportive of the transatlantic relationship, heavily engaged in NATO ministerials, in the EU-US relationship, cared deeply about deterring Russian aggression, and wanted to ensure that the transatlantic relationship was fortified and was strengthened through a number of joint initiatives. If she were elected president, she would no doubt continue her focus on Europe. She would want to ensure that we had the tools and the policies we needed to address today's threats. She would want to ensure that collectively we were able to deter Russian aggression. And she would also want to do everything she could to prevent the EU from unraveling under the weight of the migration crisis and other ongoing challenges. A potential Trump administration is harder to figure out simply because Donald Trump has not said that much in the area of foreign policy so far in the campaign. What we essentially have to go on are a handful of media clips over the last 20 or so years, interviews that he's given, and a few statements here and there. What we can see is some skepticism about the value of alliances. We wonder about how he would view the NATO alliance and the transatlantic alliance more broadly and in general terms. He seems to have some sort of affinity for President Putin, some element of respect for the way in which he so-called leads, and obviously many of us find that troubling. The other thread that you see in some of his comments is this distaste for free trade and his determination not to follow through with some of the trade agreements that President Obama has put forward. So one might imagine him not pursuing TTIP, for example, as it relates to the transatlantic relationship. But again, it's very hard to know in light of the fact that we have so few statements he's made on foreign policy.
Most of the candidates for the presidency agree that Europe needs to invest more into its defense.
At the same time, though, the United States is having a debate about whether or not it needs to reinsert the forces that it removed from Europe, particularly the 2 brigades that were moved from Europe in 2012. We're now in the process of pre-positioning equipment for a brigade and enhancing our rotational presence to supplement the 2 brigades that still remain in Europe. The question on the table is whether the next president would consider a permanent presence of any kind. I think Secretary Clinton would re-examine that issue and see whether or not she felt like it was needed to deter the Russians. In terms of a potential presidential Trump or President Trump, it's just really hard to know at this point whether or not he would make those kinds of investments.